Hi, I'm Rob Cosman. Welcome to my shop. This is episode 6 of our bandsaw mini-series. I think we're going to do one more. Anyway, so I want to talk to you today is ripping. And I was shown this by Monroe Robinson way back in 1987. And when I was doing the wood show circuit, Dave Wooland used to sell bandsaws and bandsaw equipment. And he said, Rob, that really doesn't apply anymore, because the set on these blades now is so precise that they run true. They do a lot of times, but not every time. So I'm going to show you what Monroe showed me about ripping. Now, here's what I'm talking about. If you've ever tried to rip something and found it wandered away from your fence, or worse, stayed tight to the fence, but the blade kept going over in the opposite direction, really irritating because you're not going to get a piece of uniform thickness. Now, for ripping, you want a wider blade, and I don't have any, so that's why we're only going to use a piece of thinner stock. You want a little more beef this way, so that as you're pushing on the blade, and it's a fairly heavy cut, you're going essentially the full capacity of the saw to cut. The blade's going to go back like that, and you don't want it bending going one way or the other. So the wider it is this way, the more stout it's going to be. And there is something to be said for the tracking of a wider blade. You've got more reference. But you know what? The set on the teeth of a bandsaw blade are sufficiently wide that the blade behind the teeth is not going to do a whole lot. Unlike a dovetail saw where you have such narrow set, when you're making the cut, the fact that the sides of the kerf rub on the blade, forcing it to cut straight or to track. So I don't know if that applies quite as much here. But we've got a couple things we got to do. I'm not going to use this fence because I have very little adjustment, so it really isn't going to apply. I'm going to use a piece of wood for a fence. I'll clamp it in place. Now, excuse me, I'm just going to grab a square. I want to make sure that that's standing. Okay, I want to make sure this face is flat. And I also want to make sure that it's standing plumb, and that is. So I'll set this aside for a second. Now this is a piece of cherry, just in case you're curious to know. It is 2.5 inches wide. So I need to have one edge square, and I want one face already dressed. So I'll take it over to the jointer. That was fairly out of whack, so I don't know if you can see, but it's still low here, so I'm going to make another pass. Okay, check it, lays flat, and we want the edge to be square. All right. Now, first thing I'm going to do is take a pen, and I'm going to draw a line that is parallel to that flat face. Set my bandsaw so that I'm just clearing, meaning I've got good support for the blade as close as possible. Now, I'm going to rip to that side of the line, and the idea here is I want to find where is the blade tracking. Okay, I'm going to hold that. Now this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to slice off pieces this wide, or thick. I'm going to bring this fence in, and I'm going to lay it right up against that. Now, for some reason, that's not sitting nice and flat. So I'm going to go over to the jointer real quick and square that edge. Okay, this hasn't been touched. Set that on there. Still don't know why that's not laying like it should. That throat plate's not up too high. Now I'll clamp this in place. Usually when you do this, you end up right on top of a rib underneath, but I must be lucky today because I actually hit a flat spot. Clamp it front and back. Make sure the clamps aren't in my, the clamps jaws are not in the way. All right, now let's see how that works. And by the way, if you were to look, that is not, that fence is not square to this, the bar that the fence, the rip fence sits on. So had we tried to use the rip fence, it would not have cut true. Now, it's a new blade, so it should cut well. Now if we open this up, the two faces should feel about the same, meaning if the blade was wanting to wander one way or the other, the set of the teeth would make one side coarser than the other. So let's see if we can rip another one and have it come out. Feels pretty good. We're on a roll. You can make your own veneer. If I was going to do any amount of this, I would get a wider blade. But even with this little 1/4 inch, we'll do one more. I'd use a featherboard too if I was doing any amount of this. Now let's have a close look at all 3 of these pieces, 4 of them. That is pretty good. At least by eye, they are uniform thickness throughout. Let's flip them over and see the same thing on the bottom side. As decent a finish as you're going to get off of a blade like that. That's not ready to glue. I wouldn't anyway, but if you want to utilize a pretty piece of wood and slice your own veneer, and you could have taken them even thinner than that. But you got to make sure that that fence is true to the way the blade is actually going to cut. That's why you got to go in with that line, draw that line parallel to a known straight edge, and just feed it through by hand until you're at least that far over through, and you've got it tracking so you know you're staying parallel to the line. Then just hold it there and then bring your fence in, your auxiliary fence, to be parallel to that board, and then you know your saw is going to be tracking right with your fence. A lot of stuff you can do with this. Like I said, I don't do a whole lot of resawing. I'll often go over, and if I have to, I'll do it on the table saw, make one cut, flip it over, make another cut, and come over to the bandsaw and just slice whatever's left in the middle. But like I said, I also because I don't do that, I don't have a lot of wide blades, but I think I'll actually order some. This has kind of intrigued me. Tomorrow what we're going to do is we're going to go through and I'm going to show you how to use an old dull blade to cut metal. It's really cool. Someone showed this to me. And then from there, starting on Wednesday, we'll pick up and find a new project. So hope this is entertaining you. Any comments or questions, leave them down below and we'll try to get to them. See you. So we just turned the camera off and Jake said, wait a minute, I got to do the introduction.
Wait, is it?
We're going to call this overtime. We just shut the camera off and Jake said, why not try splitting one of these? So let's do that. This measures 1/8 of an inch. So let's see if we can cut them a 1/16. Rex, would you grab me a pencil, please? I need a pencil. I'm going to put a mark. I don't think this will make a mark. I'm going to move that over a 1/16 of an inch. Yeah. Can't see it. I see it better with a piece of tape. You got one? Go. I want to keep the fence parallel. Can't see that either. So I'm going to put a piece of tape on here. That's a 1/16. Do it down on this end as well. I'm just eyeballing the 1/16. That look about right? Yep. So we'll move the fence over. Actually, I want to split one of these in half is what I want to do. And that's not enough. So we got to come a little bit more. Check that fence. Square. Take that tape off. Now let's see what happens. I've got a better push stick, but I want to be able to have something in there to keep it tight against the fence. It's a thin piece of stock, so it'll have a tendency to wander otherwise. I'm going to pull that through from this side instead. I think that was sitting up off the table when I first went into it and it snapped it down. All right, so here's our two pieces. Now I'm just curious. I've got a caliper. I'm gonna go grab it and I'm gonna measure this and just see how close we are. Give me a second. Which one was the outside? Or the inside? Let's check it. So 43, 46, 46, 46, 46. That's way down to 36. Check it on the bottom side. 45, 46, 47, 48, 48. So I don't know what I did in that first start, but that's pretty good. Now let's, just for the sake of it, check this one. 46, 44, 42, 36, 40, 52, 41, 36, 42, 44. That one that was on the inside, that was pretty darn close. So there you go. You could make veneer. Actually be able to use it. Okay, see you tomorrow.